25 years of Degeneration X was the theme of Monday Night Raw. The show opens up with them and Gorilla cracking jokes about rubber chickens. Only they didn't say rubber chickens, of course. Show continues on with the Bloodline. The Bloodline make their way out to the ring. Starts off with the typical Roman Reigns promo, but it quickly devolves into a little bit of a heated exchange between him and Jey Uso, where Sami Zayn gets in between them and says, "Hey man, don't mean to interrupt, but you said he was my problem now, and Paul Heyman's looking at him like, I can't believe you interrupted the tribal chief. But yet, hey, Roman was like, oh, he really is an honorary use. So he lets him handle it. And then him and Jey really start to get into it. And just as it's really starting to ramp up, Matt Riddle comes out. And Matt Riddle starts talking about wanting to challenge Roman Reigns for the title, even though he's not supposed to, because they have that stipulation, where he can't challenge for the title. But he tries to get around it. Of course, that doesn't happen, but the one honorary Uce, Sami Zayn, steps up to challenge him instead. So we'll be getting that match later in the night. Segment was pretty good. Didn't have no problems with this segment. I liked the heat that was building between Jey and Roman and Sami, which would play a part in the match later on in the night. And then up next we had Johnny Gargano versus Austin Theory. And your winner in that match would be Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano wins, beating Austin Theory in a pretty good match. It was a clean finish, too, so there was no doubt about who won that match. Once again, you have your Money in the Bank winner laying on his shoulders, looking up at the lights. Next up, we have Chad Gable versus Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio gets the victory here. The match was good, but it's what happened following it that is where the real meat and potatoes are. And that's when Dominic and Rhea Ripley showed up at ringside. They allowed the match to play out. The match did play out. The match did have a finish. Rey getting the victory. But then it got to the point where they get in the ring and Dominic's trying to get his dad to hit him. He just won't do it. And so he shoves him down and Rey starts to get really emotional. Tries to climb out of the ring, and then Rhea Ripley holds him by the legs, and Dom hits a 619 on his dad. Leaves him laying out there. He's crying and can't believe what his son is doing to him. Meanwhile, Dom and Rhea are laughing. This whole thing with Dominic Mysterio is really coming a long way, and he's really coming a long way with kind of, coming into his own with this whole character change. And Judgment Day is on fire, compared to where they were at under Vince McMahon. Now, look at them. Before, they were like, a joke that won't last 2 months and they'll be right in the hole. Nope, not anymore. Not anymore. Looking good. Looking real good. Camera pans over. We see that the actor from Young Rock is sitting there. Can't remember his name right off the top of my head. I can't say that I watched the show. I'll have to check it out. I've been meaning to check it out. Of course, Judgment Day delivering the typical group promo with everybody in the ring. Bragged about his victory over Edge. Ripley was wearing a armband that said Beth, which I thought was hilarious. And while they're cutting this promo, Finn starts to try to get AJ Styles once again to join the Judgment Day. He starts talking about AJ and their friendship, and he's just trying to guide him and have him see the way. So this, of course, gets AJ Styles to come out. AJ Styles makes his way down to the ring, gets in the ring, and says that he's seen the light. He's realizes that he needs his friends, and that he needs his brothers. And then he proceeds to kneel down. He kneels down in front of Finn as if he's about to give in and join the Judgment Day, right? Finn, he reaches his hand out. AJ takes his hand. He stands up. They embrace. And while they're embracing, Finn's saying, "You made the right decision." And then AJ says, "Oh, I wasn't talking about you." And out comes Gallows and Anderson. The Good Brothers are back in the WWE. The OC is back in the WWE. They hit the ring, and they're standing there with AJ, and it only takes mere seconds before it turns into an all-out brawl. Gallows and Anderson and AJ standing tall in the ring at the end of this. When Gallows and Anderson came out, they actually got a pretty good pop and a holy shit chant to boot. So that was cool to see. So there you go. Gallows and Anderson are back with AJ. The OC is back in WWE, folks. More faction warfare. The factions are growing. It is faction warfare in WWE, and it's making for some very interesting television. Next up was Bayley versus Candice LeRae. And Candice LeRae gets the victory here. A clean victory over Bayley, which doesn't bode well for Bayley and her faction. She lost to Bianca at the pay-per-view, and now you have Candice LeRae in a good match. It was a good match, went about 8 or 9 minutes, something like that. Good match, but Candice LeRae gets the clean victory over Bayley. Now, Damage Control, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky were not out there. However, they did come running out after the match to put down a post-match beatdown on Candice. Belair tried to make the save, but she fell victim to the beatdown as well. So Damage Control is standing in the ring saying how, running their mouths saying how they're dominant, but you keep losing. I have no idea. Then we have the Miz birthday segment. Maurice has thrown Miz a little birthday party in the ring. There's 2 giant bouncy balls, like massive ones, of course, because of Miz's little infatuation with his balls, I guess. And she's, he's getting these gifts, and she's like, oh, yes, honey, you've done so well. And, of course, they have it set up like she gave him a baseball bat, right, as one of the gifts, a signed baseball bat. And he's standing in between the 2 balls, and the camera angle, the way he's holding the bat, and then the camera angle, you see the bat, and you see the 2 balls on the ground, and, well, I think you can pretty much get the gist of what the imagery was there. Lots of those kind of jokes happening on the show tonight, people. So he goes to open the next gift. He goes to pick it up. It seems too heavy. He rips it off the table, and, of course, Dexter Lumis's head is under there. He freaks out, so he puts the package back over it, but he takes the baseball bat, goes to smash him, smashes it, only to find out Lumis isn't there anymore. Lumis has now slid into the ring behind him, puts him asleep with the sleeper hold, which in turn knocks Maurice, because Miz is struggling, he's kicking his feet, so he knocks Maurice into the cake that was sitting there. She goes face first into the cake, kind of hit it off to the side. She messed that up. Still, though, she did get cake all over, but it wasn't to the effect they were probably going for. And then Lumis and Miz runs away. Miz runs away, leaving his wife in the ring with Dexter Lumis, which I thought was hilarious. Lumis is standing there, and Maurice sees him. Maurice jumps out of the ring and runs away herself. She can't see with all the cake in her hair. Lumis then walks over to the cake area. There's a knife. He picks up the knife, and, typical Dexter Lumis fashion, making it very serial killer looking. Walks over, and he just grabs one of those big, there's the 2 bouncy ball things in there, right? So he goes over, and he just walks up to one and just casually stabs it and pops it. Same thing with the other one, just casually walks over and just pops it. And he's just standing there, and then he walks over to the cake. And everybody's chanting, "Eat the cake." So he cuts a piece, and he actually eats the cake, which generates a huge pop from the crowd. Go figure. So next up, we have 2 clowns backstage who are about to get annihilated by Omos. Omos, as Road Dogg says it. So, of course, DX are back there trying to fire them up, knowing they're going to get smashed, which turned out to be kind of amusing. So, of course, we go out to the ring, and Omos has his match with these 2 clowns and, of course, destroys them. Omos gets the victory. Then next up we have Bobby Lashley versus Seth Rollins. Before this match, we got a recap of Bray Wyatt returning at Extreme Rules. Everybody was hoping to see Bray tonight. We did not see Bray tonight. Well, we did see him sort of seen him and sort of got something from him, but we'll go over that in a minute. But we did not see him in person tonight. We will be seeing him on SmackDown. I have news on that in a minute. So next up we have Bobby Lashley versus Seth Rollins. Lashley comes out to the ring. He's hollering for Seth Rollins to get out there. And instead, we get Brock Lesnar's music hitting. Brock Lesnar has returned. there was rumors going around that Brock was coming back, and of course, there he is. So he comes down to the ring, and the crowd's chanting, holy shit. So he says, holy shit, something to that effect. That's getting bleeped out left and right. It's very annoying. Let me just say, I'm going to stop right here and talk about this censoring of the word shit on USA Network. First of all, at this point, we're past the 9 o'clock hour, okay? So we're sitting here and the crowd's chanting holy shit, and they're holy bleep, holy bleep, holy bleep. It's so annoying because the audio cuts out. It's not even a bleep. The audio cuts out when they say shit. And then, you know, they're censoring Lesnar saying shit. All this censoring going on, like when Gallows and Anderson came out, the crowd's chanting holy shit's getting censored every second. You know, shit. They're saying holy, 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 like that. It's so annoying. What I want to say about it is you have all this censoring of the word shit going on, right? And we're past the 9 o'clock hour at this point. And then Raw goes off the air and goes straight into Chucky, the TV series, and right out of the gate, within seconds, Chucky's dropping actual F-bombs that are uncensored. You know, he's sitting there, fuck, saying it, uncensored, right there on USA Network. No censoring going on whatsoever. So I just think it's funny. You know, we're sitting here censoring out shit every second, and then Chucky comes on right after, and he's dropping F-bombs left and right. Just funny to me. Anyway, after Lesnar said a couple words, he just scoops Bobby Lashley up and hits him with the F5. Lesnar grabs him again, hits a German suplex and another F5, gets the Kimura lock on him, and he really wrenches it in, almost breaking his arm. Lashley's pretty much down and out. His arm is useless at this point. Of course, this is when Rollins comes out. Rollins is all bandaged up. He's got his ribs all bandaged up from the fight pit. And he comes out and he demands the match be started, and Lashley's getting help to the back. And he's barking at Lashley and belittling him and saying he's not a soldier and he's a disgrace to his country, obviously, because he was in the military. So Lashley ain't going to put up with this. He goes back in the ring like the fighting champion he is. And, of course, it was too much as Seth Rollins gets the victory, and you have a new United States champion in Seth Rollins, which opens up the door for all kinds of crazy matches. You know, Mustafa Ali's been putting some cool video promos out on his Twitter page that are actually pretty good. I'd say go check that out. They're actually pretty good. Probably get a really good match between him and Rollins. I don't know what we're doing with Mustafa Ali, but the video promos he puts out just on his own are really well done, and I think they should air them on TV. I think that would get the fans behind him a little more, if I do say so myself. So we end the night with Matt Riddle versus Sami Zayn. Of course, the Usos were by Zayn's side, but Roman and Solo Sikoa and Paul Heyman went out on a night on the town in Manhattan and left them two behind to make sure that Zayn wins his match. He specifically put it on Jay to make sure Zayn wins the match, right? So while they were out there, Jimmy's the only one kind of rooting them on while Zayn is in the ring with Matt Riddle. Riddle pretty much controlled the match. What was interesting is Jay actually did try to help out. He hit Riddle with a kick while the ref was distracted. And then Zayn was yelling at him, you know, how he didn't need any help. And it was a pretty solid match until, well, Jay got involved. Again, Sammy stopped him. And quite frankly, that was a mistake because then Riddle was able to get the victory over Zayn because of this. Which, of course, is not a good thing for Jey Uso since Roman wanted him to make sure Zayn won the match, which obviously did not happen. So there's going to be some heat there. Also, through the night, we were informed that Elias returns to Raw next week. That's right. Ezekiel is gone. He must have not did so well in his hospital stay. So we're getting Elias back. Finally. Should have never been a thing to begin with, this whole Ezekiel nonsense. I'm sure he had fun with it while it lasted, but it was completely ridiculous and stupid. Now, throughout the last hour, I can't remember if it was in the last half of the second hour or the last hour, we did get something from Bray. It was one of those TV interference type things, like when we saw the Funhouse at Extreme Rules and it was all dilapidated, and we panned down to the TV and we saw it all static and glitching out, and then we saw the face in there, and the face, talking about who killed the world, you did, we did, whatever he says in there. Of course, it's Bray Wyatt, as we know, when he walked out with that mask on. So here, we just get the same kind of thing, only it's just on your TV, It's not showing the Funhouse or nothing. It's just on your TV. You get this, it glitches in like it interrupts Corey and Kevin Patrick, which, by the way, Kevin Patrick's first night on Raw commentary, not terrible, but, not great either. Passable, that's about the extent of it. But they're interrupted by this glitching out interference. And it comes on there, and it's Bray in the mask, of course. And the voice is distorted, talking about he used to play around inside the prison in his own mind, or in his own head, whatever you want to call it, however he said it. And then goes on to say, revel in what you are. What we've seen from him in the past on his Twitter page, and also in these clues recently with the White Rabbit. Then he starts to repeat it, revel in what you are, laughing, and revel in what you are. And then it cuts out, and that's all we get. So it was something. It was better than nothing, I guess, but he will be on SmackDown. It has been noted that he will be a SmackDown talent for the most part. He may show up on Raw once in a while. Who knows? This brand split is basically non-existent right now, but the focus for him will be on SmackDown. Obviously, Fox wants him. You saw the numbers on SmackDown when all they were doing was simply anticipating his return and didn't even know if it was him yet, but everybody kind of figured it was. Simply anticipating his return boosted the ratings, so I'm sure him being on the actual show will do even better. So Fox is getting Bray Wyatt. Does Bray Wyatt need to be over there? Some people say no. I'm going to say yeah, simply because Roman Reigns is not always on the show. So I think they need more big names on the show. Drew McIntyre's a big name, And even though Karrion Kross is on there, he's still working his way up the ladder with the the WWE fans that don't know really who he is. They're getting to know him. But he's not as big of a name as even a Drew McIntyre yet. I'm sure he'll stake his claim at some point here as we go down the road. I love Karrion Kross, so he will be a big player as we go down the road. But right now, as far as the biggest names, you have Drew McIntyre. And who else, really, that's like a major name besides Roman Reigns? Who isn't there every week? He's there maybe every other week or every 3 weeks or every 2. You never know when he's there. So to add Bray Wyatt into the mix on SmackDown, I think makes sense in that regard. Could Raw use some big names? Yes, Raw could use some big names. They don't even have a title on Raw. They just have the United States title. So Rollins is the guy on Raw. And, of course, Lashley will be going into Crown Jewel against Lesnar. That's what that all was all about, as if we didn't know that already. But, yeah, that's your Monday Night Raw results. That's what happened. We did not get Bray in person. We got a little vignette of him talking about revel in what you are. Revel in what you are. And then, of course, we have Bray coming to SmackDown on Friday. So we will be here to cover it. I should have my thoughts on everything sometime later that night or the following day. This review isn't getting out until a couple days later. Sorry about that. Had life situations I had to deal with. But I'm here now, covering it for you. And yeah, that's about it. So with that said, I'll catch you all down the road.